Hi, my name's Daniel Roy, and today I'm going to be reacting to my own performance from the Hollywood Magic Castle. If you want to see me perform live in New York City, you can buy tickets to my show on my website, and if you want to learn magic, check out my online course, Card Magic 101. Links are in the description.
The performer you're about to see is 22 years old, and he specializes in sleight of hand techniques used by card cheats. This September, he'll be receiving the Milburn Christopher Award for Close-Up Magician of the Year. Wow. Yet, he still finds time to be a full-time student at the University of Pennsylvania, where he studies molecular biology.
Yes, that's true. I was a rising senior at the University of Pennsylvania at the time, although my major had changed to neurobiology from molecular biology, but I guess that didn't quite make its way into my introduction. Oh well.
Ladies and gentlemen, making his Magic Castle debut, please help me welcome Daniel Roy!
Nice to meet everyone, but specifically you as well.
So as you can see, it's quite a lively audience. It's a venue where people have had some food and drinks and more drinks on top of that. So it's an audience where everyone's nice and warmed up. So this kind of spontaneous interaction with the audience is a huge part of my performance style and onstage persona. And an environment like the castle, where it's such a small, intimate room and people are, well imbibed beforehand, really facilitates this kind of interaction.
Could I ask your name?
Adam.
Adam, good to meet you.
Nice to
and
meet you.
Jesse.
Jesse, good to meet you as well. Thank you both so much for helping out. Now, all my life I've been fascinated by all the various scams and cons. Probably the best example is what's known as Three Card Monte.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Three Card Monte? Someone's heard of Three Card Monte. I've been around the block, clearly.
So this first routine that I'm performing is a 3-card Monte routine. It's based on a very old con game, as I described. So throughout this routine, I tell some stories of Monte hustlers of times past, while also demonstrating the classic con game. And I really wanted to include a piece like this in my castle act because it allows me to showcase the storytelling historical side of my performance persona, while also giving me a chance to display some sleight of hand and have some great interaction with the audience. Now, 3-card Monte, an authentic demonstration of the con, is probably my favorite of all the sleight of hand routines that can be done with a deck of cards. There's just something really beautiful and pure about it.
Now, Jesse, 3-card Monte is a very old con game with a fascinating history, and it uses just 3 playing cards. Now, the whole point of the game is to keep track of one of the cards as the operator, that's me, mixes them around on the table. If you follow the right card, you win, and if you follow the wrong card, you lose. Now, in a little bit, Jesse, we're going to be playing 3-card Monte for real. And I want to explain that this game is like a quiz show, and I'll be playing it as if Jesse's the contestant. So that means no one else can give her hints or help her out. In other words, you're defending for yourself, okay? Now, by all accounts, the greatest 3-card Monte hustler of all time was a man by the name of Canada Bill Jones, who lived during the American Civil War. In one calendar year, he won $150,000 playing this little game. Wow. It's a lot of money, right? Now, the cards he would use... What's that?
Oh, you heard me?
Yeah, just slightly. It is a rather small room. But, so, you were saying?
Can I have some of your intellect?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Not quite as fungible as money, but okay.
This is one of those very funny moments where the audience often will view themselves as very separate from you, the performer, because they haven't experienced an intimate magic performance before. They don't realize in a room like this that they're sitting literally 5 feet away from you. So if they say something, you can hear it, and it's always very funny to point this out.
Anyway, I think I was saying, the cards he would use were the Ace of Clubs, another perfectly identical Ace of Clubs, and the 10 of Diamonds. They call this card the money card because, yes, because if you can follow it, you win the money. Ooh. There we go. Now, there were a few ways that Canada Bill would toss those cards down on the table. Sometimes he would toss the money card down in the middle, and other times he would toss it down on the end. And then he'd mix the cards around a little. So now we're going to play for real, Jesse. I want you to try to keep track of the money card, okay?
Jesus, okay.
I mean, no pressure. You're only playing. She's like, okay. You're only playing for the approval of like 28 people. It's all right. I'll toss the money card down, and then I'll mix the cards around a little. Now, it can be confusing because I cross my hands, but you probably saw that the money card went over here, right?
No.
And that's how Canada Bill Jones won $150,000 playing this little game.
So that's the first effect of the Monte routine. It's just a classical mixing sequence, and the card is not where it apparently is. And one thing that's really important is I don't actually ask someone to guess and commit to pointing to a card this first time. I just treat it sort of as an offhanded, oh, of course it's over here, and of course the audience realizes that that's not the case, but it helps accustom the audience to the sort of format and structure of the routine so they understand now, he's going to be mixing, we're going to be trying to guess, and the card's not going to be where we think it is. Now, if you don't frame a routine like this properly, it can come off as a ha-ha, I'm better than you, I'm so smart, you're not smart, I got you type of thing, and of course you don't want that to be the case. I mean, it can be the case in a very obviously tongue-in-cheek way, but you don't want the audience to literally think that that's true. So when you establish the structure of the routine so that the audience understands, we're going to be guessing and we're not going to be able to guess right, it sort of softens the potentially adversarial nature of this by defining the roles.
Now, another great Monte hustler and the sometime partner of Canada Bill Jones was a man by the name of George Devol. It's actually a great story about George Devol. He once won all of a wealthy man's money on a passenger train. The wealthy man then pulled out a gun and pressed it to George Devol's head, demanding his money back. Mr. Devol managed to calm the guy down. He took him over to a corner. He said, look, I'd be happy to give you your money back. I can't do it in front of all these people here because then they'll demand their money back too, right? So here's what we'll do. We'll play one last round of 3 Card Monte. I'll bet all the money you've lost and I'll let you win. And the guy said, oh, except I don't have anything to bet. So George Devol said, hey, that looks like an expensive gun. Why don't you bet that? So they handed the money and the gun to a stakeholder for safekeeping. They went back to the table, and of course George Devol cheated him again, snatched up the man's gun, pressed it to his back, and forced him to jump off the moving passenger train. Jesse, I'm noticing you're looking a little bit more nervous than before. I can't help but wonder why. So strange. So strange. George Devol would toss the money card down on the end. And then he'd mix the cards around a little. Now, I'm not as good as George Devol, so you probably saw that the money card went over here, right? Yes. Where did you see it go? You can point. Where did you go? Yes. No, Jesse, I'm trying to teach you how the game is played. You have to trust me. That's how George Devol won that man's gun. Now, Jesse, I should explain. The game isn't played like this anymore. It was too difficult to keep track of the 2 black aces and the red 10. People found it too confusing. So these days, they play the game with 1 black ace and 2 red 10s. Adam, would you take a look at those cards, make sure the ink doesn't rub off? Do you think it might have made the game more or less difficult if you'd had more drinks?
Only a half a glass in.
Okay. After like 2 or 3 glasses, you stop following the card, you just close your eyes and guess. Honestly, it's a breaks for heaven. So, now that you know how the game works, do you want to play for cash?
How much did you bring?
His money! Wow.
Okay.
Are you willing to finance her 3 Card Monte addiction?
I've got a watch on.
Wait,
I gave him that watch, no.
Wait, hold on. So you're like, pay for it, but don't pay for it with the thing I gave you. Oh my God, $1.
Yes.
That's
I've got one of those.
That's the show, folks. Thanks very much. Just kidding. Now, $149,999 to go, right? Now, don't worry, I'll give it back after the show.
So you see, there's just so much fun interaction happening with the audience, right? We've got a sort of banter between Jesse and Jesse's significant other about, oh, I'll bet this watch. No, I gave him that watch. That was a present for me. And there's a funny line there, and then someone just unsolicited puts a dollar on the table. And of course, the only response there is just slyly, pick it up and put it in your pocket. And so what you'll notice in my performance style is I don't really write jokes into my actual script. There aren't really, lines that are meant to be super duper funny. There are some that are funny sort of in an offhanded way, but I'm not a comedian in that sense. I find that there are these junctures in the routines that I do where I have these segments that are fairly cohesive, but then there are these junctures in between them where there's space to vibe with the audience, as it were. And fun situations like this will always come up. And what's so important is having your script down and having all the moves down so that when the audience says something unexpected, you've got enough, attention left over to actually respond to it and spontaneously interact with them. Because that's what makes the performances so exciting for me, and that's what makes them feel new and alive to the audience.
Now, Jesse, this time I'm going to ask you a favor, okay? Which is, I want you to keep track of the ace of clubs. In other words, I want you to follow the card with your eyes. So when I ask you to point to where the ace of clubs is, I don't want you to point to where you think the card is or where you guess the card is. I want you to point to where you see it go. In other words, trust your eyes, okay? And this time we'll play for real, but it doesn't matter if she wins or loses because I'm not giving anything away if she wins. But trust your eyes, okay? Now remember, Jesse, don't bet on either of these red 10s here. This is the card to bet on. I'll toss the money card down. And remember, Jesse, don't bet on this red 10 over here. Don't bet on this red 10 over here. This is the card you want to follow. In fact, I won't even mix the cards until you say go. Tell me when to go. Go. Okay, Jesse. Point to where you saw the money card go. Did I put a little bend in the corner? Let me straighten that out. That's why you should never Nice. Wasn't that sneaky?
So this phase is not only a classic. I mean, I first learned this when reading The Expert at the Card Table, which was published in 1902, and it may have been described in books before that. But, of course, this phase comes from the street. Typically, of course, the hustler doesn't put the ear on the card. That's what it's called, putting the ear on. A confederate who is apparently part of the, crowd who's playing Three Card Monte will come up, and when the, operator is looking away, the confederate will come in and apparently put a bend into the corner of the card, as if that person is helping the other players out. Of course, the operator then uses sleight of hand to switch the bend to a different card. This is just one of the many methods that a three-card Monte team has of taking all your money. And you can do this in performance either by putting the bend in yourself, or I did this in one of my shows at the castle, not this one, but a different one. I had a friend who was a magician come in, and he sat tableside so that as I was delivering my script, of course we organized this in advance, I delivered a line over here, and as I was saying that, he reached in and put the ear on the card himself, as if he was trying to, ruin the trick. So then it was a very fun moment. The rest of the audience had no idea that he was a friend of mine, so it was very fun to play that for all it was worth.
But Jesse, I feel bad. So this time, I'll give you an opportunity that neither Canada Bill Jones nor George Devol would have given you, okay? This time, I will take the paperclip, and I will put the paperclip onto the money card. So now there can be absolutely no doubt about which one the money card is because it has a paper clip on it. Now, Jesse, it's your job to remember that the two red 10s are only here to confuse you. Remember last time there was a little bend in the corner of that card? I'm going to take that to another level because this time I will tear off a corner of the money card. So now there can be absolutely no doubt, Adam, about which one the money card is because there's a corner torn out of it. Now tell me, Jesse, are you right or left-handed?
Right.
Would you hold out your right hand for me, but palm down like this? And I want you to cover that corner up. Cover it up completely. Now watch closely, Jesse, because I'm going to mix those cards around. And I have to tell you, Jesse, it's amazing how many people would bet on what seems to be the surest thing. Would you lift your hand and show that corner? And Jesse, you can see that it matches perfectly, and I'm going to give you these cards as a little souvenir and as a little reminder never ever to play three-card Monte. Thank you.
Now, usually the 3-card Monte routine ends with the bent corner scam. That's a pretty typical ending for it, but I really wanted to take that to another level, which is why I incorporate this last phase as well, where you literally tear a corner off the card, and then that torn corner not only transforms under their hand, but still matches the rest of the torn card. I've always felt like that's a nice capstone on the end of the 3-card Monte routine, and it makes for a nice souvenir.
Okay, for real this time though. I think I've earned
Keep
this
it
now.
down.
So nice. I'll give it back after the show.
No, keep it.
I am no. Wow, that hit way too close to home. I'm here to entertain you, have fun, and now I'm sad. Now, Adam, I am noticing that you don't have a souvenir, and I don't want you to go away with hurt feelings. So, I have $1 that I can give you.
Sign it!
Sign the dollar and then give it to him.
Yes,
So it'll be
yes.
worth like $1 and like 1 cent, or maybe 99 cents, depending on how that
I actually did give the person the $1 back after the show. I greet all the guests afterward as they walk out, and I made sure to return said $1 to this person. Now, you'll notice here that throughout that exchange, Jesse, before taking another sip of champagne, was actually looking over the Monte cards, trying to see if they fit back together and looking at the cards, which again shows that giving props away in scenarios like this, where things like transformations happen, is really important, because the audience wants to confirm that these really are what they seem to be. Otherwise, the magic can fall apart a little bit. Now, the second routine in the act is pretty long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing today. I'll skip to the end, but if you want to see the rest of it and you haven't already, just check the link in the description. You'll see a link to the Magic Castle performance that you can watch.
This time, we'll be playing the game of bridge. Does anyone here play bridge? 2 people. That's the rousing response. Well, this will be just for you guys.
That line there is a nod to the late, great Ricky Jay, who's someone I derive a lot of inspiration from.
All you have to know about bridge is that there are 4 players, and each player gets 13 cards. So, I will give the cards some of those stacking shuffles from before. And then, of course, after you shuffle the cards, you always have to cut. And hopefully, with those stacking shuffles, those false cuts, and some crooked deals, I should be able to deal myself the best possible bridge hand, starting with the King of Spades, followed by the Queen of Spades, followed by the Jack of Spades, followed by the 10 of Spades, and the 9 of Spades, and the 8 of Spades, and the 7 of Spades, and the 6 of Spades, and the 5, and the 4, and the 3, and the 2, and the Ace of the Spades. But I would be a poor cheat if I didn't stack some good cards for my friends here. That's why I gave Walter Irving Scott the Ace of Diamonds, yes way, the 2 of Diamonds, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, the 10, the Jack, the Queen, and the King. I gave S.W. Erdnase all 13 clubs in perfect numerical order. And for Vernon, the father of us all, the second highest ranking suit, the Ace through King of Hearts. Thank you all so much.
Now, I'm always looking for ways to improve, and even when I'm watching a performance that I've seen many times over, like this one, I'm still always thinking about, well, what would I do differently if I could do this specific show again? With a lot of the sort of strange and wacky things the audience said to me, while I did have responses for them, there were some of them that sort of threw me a little bit, and it took me a moment or two to reorient and get back to the script. And some of that delay there between sort of responding to a line and processing whatever they just said and trying to figure out a graceful way of having a funny or witty response that doesn't then bog down the rest of the show, and then moving from that back to the trick. I think I needed to smooth out some of those transitions a bit. That said, I was incredibly happy with how this performance went. It was a really fulfilling and gratifying experience given all the work. I mean, literally a decade of practice that I'd put into this skill set, which really culminated in this act. And I'm deeply grateful to my mentors who have shaped me and guided me, without whom none of this would have been possible. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and following me on social media. If you want to see me perform live in New York City, you can buy tickets to my show on my website. If you want to learn magic, check out my online course, Card Magic 101. I also offer private lessons to students of all levels. Links to everything are in the description, and I'll see you next time.